Hello everyone, welcome to my YouTube channel. It's still a little bit cold outside, so not really great for gardening, and it keeps sort of drizzling. So what I thought is, why don't we have a little catch up and a little bit of creative time for no other reason than pure enjoyment, which is what it should be about anyway. So I'm just coming on with no plan apart from picking up a few bits and pieces. That's it. I've not sort of thought it out, planned it or anything. All I've thought is, oh, shall I do a bit of a vintage make? That's all I've thought. So I've pulled out a couple of browns. I haven't even pre-cut pieces of card because what I've got is this was on my desk from another project, so I'm just going to use that anyway. So we'll start with a 4x6 piece of card and a matte 4¼ by 6¼ and a card blank 5x7, all from Pink Frog Smooth Card 300 GSM. So I'm just going to go with the flow. I'm just going to enjoy myself. Now what I was thinking was, so when I decide on a vintage make, the one thing I thought is, oh, I'll use some of my little wood chips maybe. And then I thought, I haven't used a calico, any pieces of calico for ages, so I thought I might use that. And I've got a vintage book out that talks about, I think it talks about chrysanthemums, so I thought we could use a bit of that. Other than that, no idea where it's going. So what we'll do is we'll take our piece of card, and I want to lay some colour on here that is going to be a background for me, so nothing too complicated. So let's sort of grab a basic shape. So I want a sort of a circular shape, but I'll probably make it a little bit bigger. So just to give me the basis of the circular shape, I'm going to take Vintage Photo Distress Oxide ink, and I'm just going to apply the ink to my brush because I can just add as much or as little ink as I wish, but so that the implement I'm blending with doesn't drag across the card, I'm just making sure that I apply a good amount of ink. Now when I do these kind of videos, they are longer, they're more time consuming, they're about enjoyment, they're about losing ourselves in our creative process, and none of this, oh, we're going to make this in 5 minutes. This video isn't one of them. It's about me reconnecting with you, saying hi, wishing you all a happy Tuesday, just reconnecting with you all. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to apply my Vintage Photo Distress Oxide. Let's just apply. Now the Vintage Photo is a warm, nice warm brown, and if I keep applying the ink, it means it won't drag across my card, and the oxides are a little bit more forgiving with the blend. But I want that a little bit darker and richer, so I'm going to use the new Scorched Timber, and I'm just going to use a smaller brush, just because that's a little bit of a stronger brown, so I don't want to overpower the design. Just so nice few bits of debris there, so I'm just going to go again. Now it's just a background, so don't stress too much if it's not exactly what you're hoping. Now the Scorched Timber is a lovely rich dark brown, but this is just a background, so don't stress. We don't even know where we're going at the moment, and we may end up covering lots of layers up. It doesn't matter. It's just, it breaks that white space. It just makes me start somewhere, even though I've got no inkling where I'm going at the moment. But what I do have is a nice smooth layer. Now can you see, hang on, that I've moved the template up a little bit? So what I did was I had this circle first, and then I've used this circle so that it makes a bigger circle. So that's about 2 1/4 and this is about 3 1/4. It doesn't matter what size the circles are, as long as they fit on your page. Doesn't matter. Just go with it. As long as they fit on your page, it really doesn't matter. So I'm just using a little bit of that scorched timber just to give me a little bit of darkness. Now, do I want to bring any down? Yes, let's go carry on. Can you see how things start to flow? You think, yes. So I'm going to go with the vintage photo. Let's measure these circles, because I know you won't be very happy if... Let me just... And my hubby's been in the craft room, and you can always tell because I can never get to my little tape measure. Right, so this circle, now you can draw around jars or whatever, that's 2 3/4, and this one is 3 1/4. So it doesn't matter if you draw around jar lids, it doesn't matter. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to lay another circle now, and I'm going to go with my vintage photo. So let's go with the vintage photo. And we're just going to layer that colour. Now, if you've got dexterity problems and your card is moving, let's get some low tack tape. I know some of you have got the lovely fancy tools that hold everything in place. I don't, so let's improvise. So we want this to stop moving. So I'm going to use some low tack tape. I have to turn that end over, or else if I have to search for ends, it drives me mad. So use that low tack tape, which I'm not going to put on my clothes or anything. Place that onto the non-stick craft sheet, and that'll just hold that in place for me. So let's go back to this one, and let's add a little bit more colour. It's a background, so you're not going to stress. You're just going to apply that ink. So now my card isn't moving. It's just staying there. The only thing is moving is this thing on top that I'm blending the colour through. I'm just holding that in place. Again, if you don't want to hold anything in place because you've got dexterity problems, don't worry. Use a piece of low tack tape down the sides. And then let's use a little bit of scorched timber. And you can see, you can keep just going back with the previous colour just to blend out any harsh lines. It works really well. And can you see we're just ending up with a background with bits of debris on. And that just holds it in place, that low tack tape. It works beautifully. So then I'm going to use the 2 odd inch circle again, and then we'll just put that one again, overlapping. Doesn't matter how you overlap, you're just creating a background. And when you do your background, yours will look completely different than mine. That's the whole point of hand making backgrounds, so that you get some individuality. So let's just, so then let's take our scorched timber. If you didn't want to use the vintage photo, you could just use the scorched timber. The scorched timber gives that some depth. Go back to your vintage photo and just blend that out. So we've got a nice background, something a little bit different. And what we've done is we've broken the white space. So it stops us panicking a little bit. because sometimes we panic about where to start. I can keep lifting this back up because I've got that low tack tape on there, and just place that down. Don't worry if you put marks on your card. Add a few splatters, nobody will know. Right, so what we're going to do then is I'm going to add some water to my hand rather than from the spritzer, because the spritzer will be quite fine, and I'm going to add some bigger splatters by putting it in my hand and flicking with my hand. Just makes the splatters a little bit bigger rather than fine. And then your hands are nice and wet. So we can just dry my hands. Now in these videos, I don't have to rush, I don't have to panic that I've got to have something done in a certain time. That isn't what this video is about. So let's just clean up our area. And what you want to do is give that oxide a little bit of time to do its trick. In other words, react with water. And you can use your inks if you wish. The inks and the oxides work beautifully together. The inks are a little bit brighter, they're translucent. The oxides are a little bit more cloudy because they have that oxidization. And they're a pigment dye fusion. So we've given that a little bit of time now just to sort of do its thing. And we're using some kitchen roll because that will blot up the excess moisture from our card and lift the ink. There we go. We've now got a beautiful background. We have what I call a starting point, which is wonderful. We may end up covering things up. It doesn't matter. So we can just build our layers. So what I want is some scrap card. Oh, there we go, right in front of me. So I'm going to take pieces of card. So I'm sort of going to create some kind of layers, and I'm not even, no measurements. Let's just go with the flow, no measurements. So I'm just going to take my scissors and just sort of cut strips of card, and I can decide, look, I'm not even, doesn't matter, straight, doesn't matter, just cutting strips of card so we can just add them, because this will sort of be my composition. Let me just add another layer of the card. Let's go this way a little bit. So I can just sort of add layers of my card. I can add details to that. Do I want another layer? I don't know. So you can see I have no idea what I want to do. So let's grab the branched heart, and can you see here there is some text on there. So let's grab our pine cone ink, and let's take the text and the heart. Now, if you don't like long-winded videos, then this isn't the video for you, because I'm going to take my time. So what I'm going to do is, I've got some text in there, and let's say this is the only stamp I've got, but I want a little bit of text. I can use the little bit inside the heart. I can just give it a vintage feel instantly by just adding some of that text. Just gives it a touch of vintage. Worry about your non-stick craft sheet afterwards. Doesn't all have to go the same way. You can have some going the other way, or you can just completely, there we go. So it doesn't all have to go the same way. So it's entirely up to you how you add, not a H with the add that vintage text. So we've just got our VersaFine Claire. And then let's just add this to our non-stick craft sheet. So what I can sort of do is I'm just going to add layered elements. Don't know how they're going yet. We'll worry about that later. So I can add my layered elements. And then I keep forgetting that's got the low tack tape on. I'm then going to use the VersaFine Claire pine cone again, and I'm going to take the branch and I'm going to cut this out. So if you don't want to watch that, you can quite easily fast forward that as you wish. So just stamping in the pine cone. There we go. So I can just take my branch now, and then I can just, if I wanted to, I could just have that as the tree like that. So I'm going to take my branch, and it's very easy to cut out. And I do understand, I keep hearing, you know, from some demonstrators, oh, I don't like cutting out. That's fine, but just remember, some of us love cutting out, so it's nice to show different things. Now, if you don't want to cut it out, then you can perhaps use some twigs from the garden. I don't mind cutting out because I love it, because it's worth the finished result. And what I'm doing is I'm just leaving some white areas, and then I'm just going in and out. So I'm not literally trying to cut the branches out. I'm just sort of going in and out and giving a suggestion of those branches by leaving a little white space. And I'm turning my card rather than my scissors. It makes it so much easier. We all like different things in creating, don't we? So you just do you and what makes you happy. I'll just... But I do like to indulge myself sometimes in a very layered piece. We don't want that bit of card there. It's just going to aggravate us. But I do like to indulge myself sometimes in a beautifully layered piece. It just makes me happy. And if you're cutting out, the best thing to do is just keep your fingers away from your VersaFine Claire ink. That ink has got a good open time, and that means that it stays wetter longer. And as it stays wetter longer, particularly the black, you need to just keep your fingers away from holding the ink too much so that you don't smudge it. To prevent that, you can blot the ink and give that a little dry if you wish. But I've stamped this onto a relatively porous surface. I know it's smooth card, but it does absorb some of that ink. There we go. And if you want, you can just cut bits of this out and stick bits together going along your card. So you don't have to cut the whole thing out if you don't wish. There we go. So you could create this into a little frame if you wished as well. So what I'm going to do is grab my adhesive. But sometimes it's just breaking that page. This could be a journal page, it doesn't matter. But what I'm trying to show you is how freeing it can be. You don't always have to have a meticulous plan every time. So I'm just layering those together, and then I'm just going to add my sort of branch just on there as well. I'm making my own ephemera. I'm making my own embellishments for my card. And if, like me, you love creating, then I don't mind that cutting out at all. Let me just make sure that's... So we've just got, and I want that a little bit fuller. So I'm just going to stamp the branched heart again. So I'm just going to ink the branch once again. I've not stuck anything down onto the card. It's just making my embellishment pieces. And it's no different than those ladies that use their moulds, or they use their resin pieces, or whatever. You're making your own sort of mixed media piece out of your stamps. It shows that you don't have to just use your stamps for cards. You can use them for a mixed media piece as well. Yes, I'm placing this onto a card, but this could quite easily be placed onto a mount board piece. So I could quite easily place it on a mount board piece and sort of add matte medium or whatever and make it so it's a piece that stands up in your craft room. So it's just a mixed media for me. It just means you're using a mix of products. It doesn't have to mean that you're using, you know, pastes or whatever. It means you're using inks, you're using cards, you're using fabric, you're using book pages. It's a mix of products. So don't be frightened when somebody uses the term mixed media. It doesn't mean anything too complicated at all. It means you're using a mix of products. Sometimes things can sound really fancy and complicated when they don't need to. Oops. So let's just... And you have to remember, all those creatives all like different things. It's just embracing different types of craft, art, or whatever you want to call it. I love seeing all different kinds of art and can appreciate even if it's not quite my taste. And I can waffle for England as well. Let's just cut that out. So I'm just cutting probably a few more branches out of this one, just so that I've got a little bit more depth and thickness to those branches when they're layered together. Just cut that out. Oh, and the sun's trying to come out. Wouldn't that be nice? I didn't even realise that next week is a bank holiday. I lose track of all the days. There we go. So just creating, there we go. Lovely. And we'll end up with this all over the desk and I won't have space. So let's take this piece. I've not stuck anything down, but what this will do is just make my branch a little bit thicker. So a little bit more substantial and more like an embellishment. So let's just take... So I'll just move it along a little bit, she says confidently, just so it appears a little bit more substantial and a little bit thicker. Just so that then I've got a little bit of text and the branches together, and all I've used is the branched heart. And what I'm going to do is now hunt for the brushes that I've just put away, because I'm good like that. And let's just add a little bit of my vintage photo distress oxide is a little bit drier than my other ink pads because it's well loved and well used, just the way all products should be. Well loved, well used and enjoyed. There we go. So now, I mean, can you tell I keep forgetting this double-sided, not low-tack tape behind? But if you wanted to, you could quite easily have that like that, couldn't you? And wouldn't that be just a lovely tree on its own, just like that? And you could just stamp something on the side. But I'm having it like this, like so, just because it'll work rather nicely. Excuse me. So I'm going to take some of my calico, which you can see is not exactly cut straight. Let's grab some fabric scissors. Let me see if this is a calico that tears. Yes, it is. Lovely, lovely, lovely. So let's just, there we go. And I like it when my calico is a little random. I'm not looking for perfection. Let's just fray a few of those edges. Love doing that. Just fray some of the edges, and let's just start it off a little bit, and then hopefully I can tear that little bit. That's it. We want all these frayed edges like that. You can even keep those as well, just so you can use them as texture. What is scary is, where have I just put? Place those there. I've now lost my, there it is. Don't move it on one side is the word. Right, so let's use our branched heart again, and let's use the word peace, and we will take our A7 acrylic block, and we'll use our VersaFine Clair, and we'll just stamp the word peace just onto the calico. Okay, so what I'm creating is some embellishments that I can use in my project. So I'm creating my own, and I may not use them all, but I'm creating my own embellishments, my own ephemera. So what I've got here is, she says, frantically trying to grab hold of it, is my chrysanthemum book page. As you can see, it's lovely and aged, but what I need is I need it to have some stability. So I'm going to have a scrap piece of card, and I'm going to use my finger. Just hoping I can find it without taking forever. So just bear with me a second. What you need is either some matte medium or whatever you want. This is Distress Collage medium. And I'm just going to, I'm afraid I'm going to use my finger because it's just easier. I can wipe my finger and not worry about a brush drying out, because you know how bad Tracy is. She talks away and then the brush dries with the collage medium on. And I only need some of it stuck on anyway. But I'm using the collage medium because that will give me that edge-to-edge adhesion for what I want to do. Let's just move that out of the way. And then we'll just wipe our finger. There you go. Whereas I'd have forgotten the brush, and I would have let it set like concrete, because that is me all over. There we go. So I've got that on there. It doesn't matter about the edges, it just gives it some sturdiness. I'm then going to take my snippet stencil tweet, which I've got them all knotted up. There we go. So take the snippet stencil. And again, creating my own embellishment. So I'm now going to take the scorched timber. I don't know why I put the brushes back. That was me thinking they'd be out of the way. I'll do it in the centre because that's where most of the adhesion is. So just using my scorched timber. Just to add my little bead. There you can see, and it absorbs into that card, that vintage paper beautifully. Now, don't forget, you could use your stencil, you could spritz that and create another bird on another piece of card. That would be entirely up to you. And again, I'm just creating my own little embellishment. Now, you could add a little bit of crackle over there as well. And you could end up with a crackle bird like I did in a previous video with the hair. And that would look quite nice as well. We'll just go around our little bird. Obviously, if you can let things dry like that adhesive, it does make it a little bit easier for you. But you know me, I'm working live and I don't edit it so that you don't see everything. We just go with the flow. And I always find if you leave sort of most of the bird intact on the card and then cut the legs out, it makes it much easier to cut the legs out. So sort of don't cut all the body out and then leave the legs to cut out, because it just makes it a little more difficult for you, because you've then got these little pieces to cut out. Whereas if you've got most of the bird still intact on the card, it makes it far, far easier for you. There we go. So now we've got, I mean, you could literally stick that back together like so. Just stick that back together and you could actually create another project with that, with something looking through it. I may save that and do another project with something peeking through that. So there's always ways to develop your ideas. So shall we make our bird a little bit more vintage? So, poor thing. Oh, what a shame. So I'm just bending the card and you can see that it's not quite stuck. Mainly because I'm doing the creasing, which is not a good idea when it hasn't dried. But hey ho. Let's just add a little bit of adhesive here. So wait for yours to dry. You know, I'm asking products to do things impossible. So wait for it to dry completely. It's just that my poor little beard. There we go. But I need that card underneath. It just gives it a little bit more stability. So you just let yours dry. Don't do what I do. Just let it dry. Let's pick your tail up a little bit and let's stick it down. But if I'd have let that matte medium dry completely, it wouldn't have been a problem. What I want to do, the reason I've added the the reason I've bent like this is I can then take my ink pad like so and just highlight those creases. It just gives it a more aged appearance. There we go. And then let's just rub the ink just so it blends in, just to give it a little bit more of that aged appearance. And obviously if you've got those inks on your finger, give them a wipe. Now what I need to do is let's take the scorched timber again with the small brush, because we want the smaller areas, and let's just colour the edges of our bird just so that we haven't got those white edges. Let's just give them a little bit of a colour, just so we look all professional, creating our own embellishment. Can you tell I'm beginning, the space is closing in on me, and I'm going to end up as normal with 2 millimeters of space. I don't have an inch anymore. So what you can see is, let's make sure our hands are clean. And I've now got my sort of embellishment that I can add onto my card. So we'll have our embellished little bird as well. So let's just, so what I'm going to do then is, where are we? Let's grab a little bit of salvage patina and salty ocean. Trying to grab a brush that's got those colours on. And it doesn't matter what you do, it's always the last brush you pick up. So I'm going to take salvage patina. Just grab a little bit of that salvage patina, and I'm just going to add a little bit of the salvage patina to my bird. And then I'm going to use a little bit of salty ocean as well, just to give a little bit of the bluey colour. Told you I'd end up with no space at all. Now, so that that ink just doesn't just sit on there, let's just give a little bit of a spritz of water, just so it just doesn't sit there, and I'll just knock the camera. Crikey, where does the time go? When you're enjoying yourself is what I want to know. There we go. So, because we've spritzed it then, it has a cloudy appearance. You can still see that is still wet. I'm not going to dry anything, but you can still see it's got that sort of cloudy appearance. Don't ask me what that word is. But you can see I'm sort of building a composition. We don't know where we're going yet, but what I'm then going to do is, let's just grab something else. Let's put some of these stamps away, because it'll just give me a little bit more space, she says confidently. Spot the well-used stamps that just fall off. Let's just move them out the way. And then I just want to see, so let's take my little alpine plant. And if you're unsure how something's going to look, peel it off your acetate and then place. So just place that there. So we'll just take our little alpine plant, and we're going to stamp that in the brown. Which is our pine cone. Little over inking there. Make sure this is not packaging. I do that quite frequently because often it can be packaging sometimes with me. Again, if you don't want to do any cutting out, don't do any cutting out, stamp it direct onto there. I'm creating my own little embellishments that I'm quite enjoying myself. Cutting out. So again, I'm cutting this out as a little embellishment piece again, because it's like a jigsaw. Then I can play around with composition, etc. If you don't want to cut out the floral, you could stamp it direct onto the card and maybe just cut out one of the flowers. It's your project. You can take it wherever you wish. The idea is we spend some time together, reconnecting and enjoying our creative time. So now I'm creating my own little pieces. And just make your stem a little bit wider, if that will make it easier for you to cut that out. I'm now cutting the wrong leaf out. What are you doing, Tracy? There we go. And I've used a permanent ink pad, so if I want to use any sort of pens that react with water, this ink won't move. So now I've got my little embellished piece that I can sort of, you see what I was saying about this book as well, is you see how you can just have flowers peering through as well. It's just, the ideas just flow the more you play. So I'm going to have my little, I still want all my pieces to be visible. Oh, that's it. You just knock them all over the place, Tracy. This is what I do. Faff, 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 faff. So that will go there. And then I'll never get it in the right place anyway when I come to do it, because that's me all over. Oh, yes. So you see, I'm building a composition. Right. So let's add a little pop of colour. And this is just a small floral, so it's very easy to colour. And it's very easy to colour with your pencils, but it's also easy to colour with your Ecoline pens. So let me grab, shall we have some, oh, come on Tracy, bear with me. So let's have a, what colour green are you? A light green, a little bit of a bronzy green. And let's have a scarlet and a sort of reddish brown. There we go. Now, these are pens that are reactive with water. But the area is so small that you don't really have to worry about being too perfect. What I do need to worry about is how clean my brush is, which is usually not very clean. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with the darkest colour, which is bronze green, and it's 657. And what I'm going to do is just add the bronze green just around the darkest edge. So I'm just going to add touches of that. And I may not even need to react with water. It's such a small space. I can probably do pen to pen. So that's the darkest colour. And in this case, the lightest colour for me is light green, 601. And then I can just come in and just use the light green. Yeah, we will blend with a little bit of water. So I'm hardly touching that. And then I'll just use the light green, a little bit of water, pick up that. I've now got a wash. So we'll just then just blend the wash into both of those colours. Just blend it a little bit. Now I can go back in with the darker colour, and because that card is moist, then it will just wick out. I can just, and you really with this you can just add a suggestion of that colour. So let's rinse that out because that will now be green. So we'll just rinse our brush. I also think, personally, just for me, because I think it's a good idea to just let things rest a little bit. So what I'm going to do is use the reddish brown 422, and I'm just going to add the reddish brown, just the dark, and I'm going to do one floral at a time because I find that things work better if they are wet, and you don't try to blend when something is almost dry. So take that water, take off the excess. I've got a piece of kitchen roll here. Then take that wash of the scarlet, which is 334, and just blend that out. I wonder if I prefer carmine. Let me just grab carmine. I'm going to use the carmine instead, which is 318. That's better. 318. And then I can go back in with the dark colour just to make it a little bit darker. Take the carmine, and you can just, I've now got a wash on there, and then if you take off the excess moisture, it doesn't then swim away with you. It just blends without swimming. A little bit more of that colour. And I might leave the insides white. I can't make my mind up yet. So we'll go with that reddish brown. Just add a little bit of the reddish brown. Then go, I don't know why I keep putting the lids on. And then go with the carmine. So you're blending sort of pen to pen. And then just use the wash of the carmine, a little bit of water, a little bit of carmine, take off the excess moisture, and then just blend that. Now if it's too wet, take off a little bit more of the moisture. and then repeat. So we'll go for our reddish brown, then go to the carmine, and then go for a little bit of a blend. And if you've got too much water, just dab off the excess. Again, go with the dark, then your light colour, blending pen to pen, and then you can take the wash of the carmine and just blend that out a little bit. Again, the dark colour, your carmine, which is the light colour. And I quite like, not that you can see anything, just leaving the centres with that sort of pop of white. And if you let that rest, so you can, if we go back to the first flower, you can go back in and just add another layer of the colour, just to give it a little bit more vibrancy. You can then go in with your dark colour and really add that dark edge, just touching that brush to give it that darkness. And if you want, you can take that wash again and you can go in, take off the excess moisture, and you can blend a little bit more if you wish. So now I'm going to, this is rested now, so my dark colour, have I got one that's even darker? Bear with me. So I'm going to use a little bit of forest green, 656, and I'm just going to add a little bit of the forest green. I love adding lots of greens. Just a little bit of forest green, which was 656. Did I say that? Probably did. Then I'm going to go back to the bronze green and just sort of blend that other green out. So it takes off the harsh edges. There we go. Let me just dry this area here. And again, when we want to add our white pen, we need to let things rest. We don't need to be too impatient and just let it rest. If you want to, you could colour your florals blue if you wished. I may add a little bit of reddish colour to the beard as well. Right, I've still got that low tack tape underneath, but what we can do is now decide sort of on our composition. But couldn't you quite easily just leave it like that with not anything else either? It just looks just beautiful. It looks wonderful. I really, really like it. Where's my, let's just place this stamp back. Now don't forget, this video is longer because I'm enjoying myself and I'm not going to rush. Where are we? I need that out eventually. And again, just working on my composition. I'm not sticking anything down at the moment, but I do like that. And then I'm going to have my beard, and he can come down here. And then I think I'm going to add a little bit of red. Let's grab, I've never got the colour out. Don't know whether I've got a blending brush with red, but we'll soon know. sort of orange, but that'll be okay. So I'm going to take lumberjack plaid. I'm just going to add sort of a little tinge of the red. And why am I adding a tinge of the red? Because we don't want it to look too disjointed. We want it so that everything looks like it works together. Again, continually cleaning up. And I'm just going to sort of blot my card so that that ink doesn't just sit there. We don't want it to just sit there. That will go here. Am I going to stick anything down? Not at the minute. This is I'm not sticking anything down at the minute. So I want my text. So I'm going to take my Take Flight stamp set. I'm going to stamp this in the background, but it's going to be sort of tone on tone. It's got some lovely details on there, so we'll just take that. And I'm going to use the pine cone. So again, it'll be that tone on tone. And again, don't stress if it isn't perfect. It's going to be in the background, so it doesn't matter. By the time we've added our layers, some of it won't be visible. But now you've used a mix of products. Therefore, your project can be classed as mixed media. Let's place that there. And again, I'm going to drive you mad because I'm going to keep... Now, really, let's grab some copier paper because we need to blot that. You can tell it wants blotting because you can see a little bit of shine. So just give your image a little bit of a blot and you'll see that you get some of the ink off there. You get the first layer of ink. But even creating a project, you could sort of have your bird with that over. So just don't bin pieces because it's surprising. So let's give this another blot. I can still see that shining. Yes, I could save myself by just drying with the heat tool, but I can just blot it and that's fine. Just to save that ink smudging. And can you guess what I'm going to do? Oh yes, I'm going to do it all again. And you just have that just peering behind with our bird here. And I want something on the bird, so bear with me. Oh no, I know. So I'll take one of my wood pieces because that can go on the bird. Will you remind me that there's that low tack tapers on the back of there? Because I just keep forgetting. So I'll take the Take Flight stamp. Oh, crikey, can't pick anything up. I'll take the Take Flight. No, that is not the Take Flight. This Take Flight stamp here, I'm going to use the word flight. So let's just ink it all because it's mad trying to faff. Which piece do I want? Do I want it like that? And I'm going to add the word flight to the wood chip. Where's my black biro? So I've got flight on there, but I've just missed a little tiny bit, hardly anything of the F, just so that you can see we've got that flight on there. So I can then add my little bird here and add the word flight. You can always tell when you're enjoying yourself, because you lose yourself in the process. I'm just going to turn that, I was going to say I'm going to turn that over. Let's just add a little bit more adhesive. You've got to give that time. Obviously your pin flare might be a little bit better because it's a bit thicker. We'll see if that grabs hold. No problem at all. Let's make sure it's straight, Tracy. There we go. So we have a little build up of some composition now. So we'll grab our pin flare. So you could easily put this into a frame. You could put it onto a piece of MDF, whatever you wish. Right. What we'll do is we'll add this piece first. I love this little piece. That is just scraps of card, as you saw me. So we'll just place that there. And you saw that I easily just broke down the page by adding those circles. And then I'm going to add a little bit of pin flare just onto my florals, just to give that some depth. You don't have to add the depth if you don't want depth to yours. That's absolutely fine. We need that at the moment. I can then add my I want it there. Let's press that down a little bit. We don't want to cover up it's just, there we go. This is why you faff. I don't want to cover up all the text that we stamped on that bar, because what's the point? Because that, you know, I like the fact that whoever receives the card can look in and see a little bit of text as well. Just so they can see this text here. I just think the little details, it's just important. You can leave yours like that if you wish. Let me just, I always think looking through the camera is the best bit, because you can see where you're placing everything. What I'm going to do is I'm going to add this to the black mat, just so I've got a little bit more space. So I'm just going to add that to the black mat here, like so. I'm not even going to remove that low tack tape. I'll just make sure there's adhesive just over that. There we go. And I love the little strands from the calico. You know me, I have to lift my card up. So did we save those strands anywhere? I mean, looking for those strands is going to be like looking for a needle in a haystack. Let me just place that up a moment. Now, can I see any of those strands anywhere? It's because I pushed everything. Oh, they're here. So this is the strands from the calico. We want those, don't we? So have I got a piece of calico? Oh, there's some more strands here. So we can use these strands from the calico because it just helps with the texture. And then what I'm going to do is grab every single drawer I open then. I've got these little bulldog clips. Don't worry if you haven't got them. Why not use a paper clip? I'm going to add that to my little bird, just so. I'm going to add my little bird here. So again, you don't have to add all the things I'm adding. You can just leave it like that if you wish, especially if you like it more pared back. I want to do a fully layered piece. That's me all over. I'm going to add my little bird because I haven't done a layered piece for absolutely ages. So just add this here. Now, if you've got any sense at all, unlike me, you would add your touches of white before you stuck them on the card. Of course, I haven't done that. Let me just see now if I want to add any. You do know that I'm going to have to try it, don't you? So I'm going to take my little fern and again, and I'm going to stamp this in the green. So I'm going to use a little bit of verdant and then a little bit of Shady Lane just to give it a little touch. You hardly have to touch that. And then I'm just going to pretend to cut out all the fronds because I'm obviously not going to. You're just going to go in and out like so. In and out on your project. Just makes it feel like a fern if you go in and out. You're not literally cutting all those fronds out. Going in and out will just give that some movement, like so. So where there's a wider gap, obviously I can go in and out a little bit further. And where it's close together, I don't go all the way in. There we go. And the idea of a mixed media piece is you're just sort of playing around. So I'm going to take the little fern. I'm just going to add a little bit of adhesive to that. You know, this, you're indulging me and allowing me just to play to show you where I'm going with my project. I also want another leaf now, and I'm going to do that just in the dark green. Now we've used inks, we've used pens, we've used fabric. Let's put the lid on that. So it makes it mixed media. And just because you're using browns doesn't mean it has to be lifeless. You can give it life. And your stamps just go to show just how versatile stamps really are. Where there's a bigger gap, I'm just going in a little bit further, that's all. But where there is hardly any gap, I'm just going in and out. Just to give that feel of that sort of spikiness of the fern. And have you noticed I don't place anything in until I've just had a play around. There we go. A little bit of adhesive on there. And that's why you don't leave the lid off, Tracy. Let me use my scissors because it's just easier to press that down. And you know what I'm going to try and do now is add touches of white when there is that gel medium on there, because that is me all over. So let's move you back because you've moved, which we don't want. But because I've given things time to calm down, you can just add the touches of white so much easier by just giving things a little bit of time just to relax. And I keep knocking my beard, poor thing. Instead of moving the card, I'm just going to add a little sort of few touches. Make sure that definitely makes contact with your card. Just a few little. It makes all the difference just adding the touches of white. So then let's just add our splatters. Just to our project, mainly because I love a few splatters. Again, you're using a Posca pen, therefore it makes it mixed media. Let's just clean up our bits of whatever. This will all dry solid. So we'll then just add this to our 5x7 card blank, which just gives it a sort of a bigger border. And I love the fact that we've used those calico pieces, threads, to just add to that. I mean, make sure you've got a card that is, you know, going to unfold the right way. Just give that a little bit of time. There we go. And then I just want one more touch. Let's grab the alpine plant again. Let's just take the fern off there. Nobody knows where anything is now. Where's my little alpine plant? So we grab that alpine plant, and I'm just going to grab the word alpine. And I'm going to stamp that in black. Nobody knows where my black ink pad is. What's that on top of? And you know, I've had a lovely hour. My sentiment isn't straight on there, but we'll go with it. Place that back. Make sure we don't use those fabric scissors, because that's so easy to do. And then we'll just cut out the word alpine. There we go. And then I'm just going to find the brush that is absolutely nowhere to be seen. Let's add a little bit of our brown, maybe the darker brown. the scorched timber. In fact, let's put a little bit more ink on. That's better. It's lovely when I can just reach everything. Let's make sure those hands are clean and dry. Let's bring in our card. Do I just... There. I love adding just little clusters. So let's just add a little bit of adhesive there. Just tuck that in sort of there. Now we don't want to I don't want to sort of cover my entire little, what's that called? Fern. Use your scissors, Tracy. That's it. And that is your mixed media card just finished. And we started with bits of sort of circle, didn't know where I was going, and I just absolutely love it. A lovely play with my products. We need to sort of, let's ground our little bird a little bit. So let me just add a little bit of adhesive just on one foot that I can't see. This poor bird's going through a bit, you know. He's been bent all ways. And he is going through a bit. Let me just hold that in place and just remove a bit of that adhesive, because I put enough in for enough glue on for Sasquatch, never mind a bird that's tiny. Just hold that in place, just so he's a bit grounded. And then, you know, we have to remember these details, don't we? And then just add a little bit of shading. And we know that brush isn't going to be clean because we've coloured, because it's rather pink. So just, that's better. Just waiting for it to run clear. And then I can just add a touch of the shading just below, just so that you finish your card off properly with a little bit of shading. But I just love that. A lovely mixed media piece. And we've also missed something else. Let's add a little bit of white just to the key here. And I could carry on, because what I could do is I could take the, what's this called? Take flight, and I could add that key to the bird's mouth as well. Honestly, you could just go on and on. And I've just had another thought, hang on. Now, I'm not disappearing yet. I'm terrible. I'm so sorry. Right. I'm just going to grab the Take Flight stamp set. Can I see it there? And let's see if I can just colour the little heart in the colour of the Ecoline pen. Let's see if there's enough ink on there it can just stamp. Oh, yes, it can. Did I chuck that wipe away? Let's clean that off. Let's cut our little heart out. Just like so. So I've got a little heart here. Do I want to? Let's take, where's my adhesive? Do you know when you look for stuff and you think, where is it? Just add a little bit of adhesive. Have I got adhesive on there? No, no adhesive on there. It's just invisible. Maybe a little bit too much on there. Shall I have a fiddle with tiny little bits? But I do love losing myself in a project. There we go. Let's move that. Tracy's completely lost herself now. There we go. And then I've just added that little heart, just so then it echoes that colour in there onto our little beard. Just the little touches. Oh, the things that make me happy. So I hope you've enjoyed that project. I hope you've enjoyed a little time with me. Love to all, and I'll see you all soon. Bye for now.